about who is Jesus, where he came from, was he originally black, and if so, how did he get white? Okay, this is Nazareth. Nazareth is where Jesus comes from, as far as the Bible says. Wisely and slow, they stumble that run fast. So pretty much saying, if you smartly move slowly, and if you speed, you gonna fall.
That sounds like it could be in the Bible, but it could be a Chinese proverb.
Did everybody guess already?
Yeah.
Okay.
I think, I don't know.
So it was not.
Ha!
Hey!
Hey!
Shakespeare.
William.
You're going to need a bigger boat. That's the saying.
That's it. That's the whole.
That's it.
No,
You're
we
going
need
to
a bigger
a
boat.
That might be in the Bible somewhere.
I don't know what that. I don't know.
I think it's in the Bible. Why not?
Is it right there, guessing?
Yeah.
It's not in the Bible.
Yes!
I said it wasn't.
And let us hold fast the profession of our faith without wavering, for he is faithful that promised.
That was definitely
In the Bible.
It's in the Bible.
Girl, what you doing
And
over
it was
there?
in the Bible. Okay, so good thoughts and actions can never produce bad results.
Oh.
Bad thoughts
That's
and
clearly
actions
not
can
in the
never produce good results.
No.
No. No, it is not in the Bible. That was James Allen, a British author. What do people look like? They got a young person, like a middle-aged person, and an older person. All these people from Nazareth are brown or black. Jesus is white, apparently. And then the story of Jesus Christ. Pretty much you don't get actually much of the actual story of Jesus Christ growing up and what he went through as like from child to man in the Bible. But I watched American Unearthed, and I did a lot of personal research, and this is pretty much the story that I came up with based on what I was researching from a lot of people who obviously have degrees and stuff who did this research. But okay, so he grew up in Nazareth. He was not raised to believe that he was God or the Messiah. So he pretty much decided that he was the Messiah. And the story of the Messiah and how he would arrive and everything was already in circulation. So Jesus pretty much just decided, I'm going to be the Messiah. I'm sick of this, And he gave a lot of various speeches, sort of like our Martin Luther King, if you want to think about somebody who kind of goes around and gives speeches based on, character. And the Good Samaritan is one of his well-known speeches. And it pretty much talks of the people where he was from. I'm not getting the name, but the Samaritans pretty much lived next door. And so the good neighbor, or love thy neighbor, was pretty much towards the Samaritans, who were actually in conflict with the people of Jesus' background. So he said that there was a man of Jesus' heritage, and he was sick in the ground, laying on the ground, and all the priests and everything walked past him, because back then, if you were sick or, crippled or blind or any of that, they did not allow you into the church at all. So he was saying, like, the priests and everything walked past the sick man, but the Samaritan actually helped him. So that's where the saying, love thy neighbor, comes from. Like, it's pretty much love your enemy. And, so that's pretty much what it means. And as we all know, he died for our sins and was resurrected 3 days later. That's the Easter celebration that we all, as Christians, celebrate. Jesus is praised and honored in a lot of Christian churches. I know from my personal experience, Jesus is seen more as God than God. You hear more people praise Jesus than they actually come out their mouth and say God. Like, more people say, thank you, Jesus, and they praise Jesus a lot more than actual God. To me, it's like, in my opinion, it's like a celebrity God. You know, it's like a God that we can actually see, somebody who we actually, you know, have stories about, like, you know, a brother or sister is more potent to us, to somebody who we can reason with and relate to, versus an idea, which is pretty much what God is, something that we never see, but we have to have faith in. And he is the most iconic figure in every Christian household all over the world. Okay, so now we talk about the Bible, which we all know means basic instructions before leaving earth, and the role that Jesus played in the Bible.
Hey.
That the Bible is a, we know, big book, many books in the Bible, but not many of them actually talk about Jesus. And the last book in the Bible, which is called Revelations, is pretty much dedicated to Jesus and the story of Jesus, as far as what people were actually seeing and the conversations they were actually having with him. And the whole Bible as a whole barely talks about what these people look like. You never really hear them describe as far as skin color or height or anything like that of what any of the people actually look like. And also, everybody knows that the most common Bible, especially in America, is the King James Version. So next we're going to talk about who is King James and what authority he had to write a Bible. King James. The story of how King James earned a version of the Bible cannot be briefly talked about. Like, really, it's a really long story, but this is like the short version of it. In a nutshell, the Palestinians were not all happy about him becoming a king. They struggled to get him to include the religious church and faith in his role as a leader, which brought on his idea to rewrite the Bible. The Palestinians were upset that the Bibles in circulation at the time were very old, and very few of them were in English at all. They had a more secular motive and were used mostly to promote the ideas of the state. So King James apparently had and still has no more authority writing a Bible than George Bush or Barack Obama has to writing a version of their own Bible. But his answer to the Palestinians was to have 50 of the highest English scholars and language translators rewrite all of the books of the Bible.
Hello.
The trick was to still include the agenda of the state, while making it appear that the text had not been altered in any real obvious way, which obviously was done really well. Along with the new Bible came a new Jesus. So I'm gonna go back to this slide where it pretty much talks about the description of Jesus in the Bible, which you can find in the book of Revelation, chapter 1, verse 14 and 15. His hair was like white wool, white as snow, which we have a picture of white wool here. As many of you know, the only people naturally that grow hair like wool are people of an African descent. Like many European kind of people do not grow hair like wool. And his feet, which is the only description we have of any kind of skin on Jesus, it says that his feet were like fine brass, which is already brown, as if refined in a furnace, which means it got burned. So it's already brown, but it has been through a fire, so it's even darker. So we're talking about like a my-colored kind of man. And that's the description that's in the Bible. Okay, now we talk about the Europeanism of Jesus. The very first picture of a white Christ was painted, not the very first, correction, the most popular picture of white Christ was painted 10 years before Columbus discovered America. I say discovered with quotations around it because we all know not only were the Indians here, but there were many indigenous people already here of African descent before Columbus got here. Leonardo da Vinci was hired to paint the portrait of Jesus, which King James' nephew modeled for. That's the most popular picture of Jesus. Also, the 12 disciples were modeled after Da Vinci's own family members, who were all criminals.
Well.
Christ are here. This is a picture of Jesus healing the leopard, not the leopard, the, what's the name?
The lame guy.
Yeah.
They had the words back then.
It was him. And this is a picture, not actually of Jesus, but I think it was David. This is the original 12 disciples in Jesus. And you can see over here, after Christ was Europeanized, the exact same picture, now this is the original, was turned white. This happened once, you know, the very first picture that somebody colored Jesus white and they didn't go straight to hell, everybody decided it was okay. As far as, you know, from the research that I did. And this is talking about what happens when, in America, when Jesus turns black. Now, I looked in several different search engines for this information. And every time I put in black Jesus, I got something like this. He's half naked and bound, is over-sexualized, and he looked like a male stripper. Like, it's sexualized and feminized, and he does not look anywhere near.
Let me go and
That's just not anything. If this was the only picture of Jesus I had, black Jesus, I would go back to the white one too. This is Barack Obama as Jesus, which came up so much I was really shocked to see how many people had done this. This is sacrilegious. The Bible and the state have nothing to do with each other. They should never mix like that. This is regular white Jesus with a tan. He does not look like an African man. You know, his hair, nothing about his appearance is really African except for his skin color. And then we have Black Jesus, which if you watch any of these shows, this man is not a role model in any way, shape, or form. He is greedy and deceitful and lazy and ignorant.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? Why make him white? What was the purpose behind that? At young ages, our subconscious is vigorously at work. So when a black baby sees a white R&B singer as Jesus, who is the new God, deductive reasoning prompts a few other thoughts. As she starts to believe that older white men must be Jesus' father, so they must be God. B, every other white male becomes related to this God, making them all appear to be godly, especially when they hold positions of power, like judges, cops, and the president. C, whenever the black child enters the presence of God, they will always feel like they fall short of his glory. As we learn in church, we always will fall short of the glory of God. We should be in servitude to God, and we will always depend on him to save us. So it sets us up to project dependency and servitude onto white men. There is a video, because I know I'm just a college student, and I don't know much, but Dr. Frances Cress Westling, I don't know if you guys have heard of her, she wrote the book, The ISIS Papers, and this is a short section of her talking about Jesus.
So, see, they understand completely. Even the trustees board at our Baptist Church, we were in church before we could see straight. And I remember the little Sunday school car with the white Jesus kneeling down, first with white robe on. And so I remember looking at this.
Sorry.
On the Sunday school car. And so in our house, we had a pantry. And on the first shelf, you know, where you had tall items, it was always right there in the middle was a big box of Quaker Oats. I had some Quaker Oats this morning. A big box of Quaker Oats. So I remember going and looking at that, I don't know when I was 5 or something. And I looked at this white man on the, you know, the white man with the Quaker hat and the long white hair. And so I decided, oh, I guess that's Jesus' father. I mean, it wasn't something I discussed with our parents. I had concluded.
Yeah.
You know. There's also a man named Dr. Umar Johnson. I didn't show his video because he has a tendency to be too real, and I didn't want to offend anybody. But his point pretty much was pretty much the same as hers. Symbols are very important. They work with our subconscious, like I was saying before, to pretty much make us act. You know, when you see, because we think in pictures, when you see a picture, it provokes a thought, which provokes either words or actions. So if your God is in the image of your oppressor, you will aid in your own demise 100% of the time. Yeah.
What was his name?
Dr. Umar Johnson.
UMAR.
I think he's gonna be
In Detroit.
Wesley Muhammad, PhD. It's called Color Struck. America's White Jesus is a global export and false product. What color was Jesus? Most American Christians, black and white, would dismiss this question as both irrelevant and unanswerable, as the Gospels fail to give us a physical description. The irony is that most of these same Americans, in their heart of hearts, are pretty confident anyway that they know what color Jesus was. They attend churches with images of a tall, long-haired, full-bearded white man depicted in stained glass windows or painted on walls, and they return home to the same depictions framed in their living room or illustrating their family Bibles. Further compounding the irony is the fact that America actually has an obsession with the presumed color of Christ and has exported her white Americanized savior around the world, as recently documented by Edward J. Blum and Paul Harvey in their book, The Color of Christ, The Son of God, and the Saga of Race in America. In fact, the world's most popular and recognizable image of Christ is a distinctly 19th to 20th century American creation. It is true that versions of the white Christ appear in European art as early as the 4th century of the Christian era, but these images coexisted with other non-white representations throughout European history. The popularity of the cult of Black Madonna and Black Christ throughout Europe is evidence of the fact that the European white Christ never acquired the authority and authenticity that the white Christ now has globally. This Christ and his authority are American phenomena. As a predominantly Protestant nation, early America rejected the imaging of Christ that categorized European Catholicism. By the mid-19th century, however, in response to American expansion, splintering during the Civil War and subsequent reconstructing, whiteness took on a new significance, and a newly empowered white Jesus rose to prominence as the sanctifying symbol of the new national unity and power, as Blum and Harvey observed. By wrapping itself with the alleged form of Jesus, whiteness gave itself a holy face. With Jesus as white, Americans could feel that sacred whiteness stretched back in time thousands of years and forward in sacred space to heaven and the second coming. The white Jesus promised a white past, a white present, and a future of white glory. As America rose to superpower status in the 20th century, she became the world's leading producer and global exporter of white Jesus imagery through film, art, American business, and Christian missions, and has thereby defined the world's view of the Son of God. This globally recognizable Jesus is a totally American product. Indeed, he is an American. Warner Salmon's iconic image of Jesus, called Head of Christ, 1941, became the most widely produced piece of artwork in world history, and its depiction the most recognizable face of Jesus in the world. By the 1990s, it had been printed over 500 million times and achieved global iconic status. With smooth white skin, long flowing blondish brown hair, long beard, and blue eyes, this Nordic Christ consciously disguised any hint of Jesus' Semitic Oriental religion and departed from the older European depictions, and it both shaped and was shaped by emerging American ideas of whiteness. The beloved white Jesus of today's world was made in America. What then did Jesus actually look like? Despite the absence of a detailed description of Jesus' physical appearance in the Gospels, through John, the Revelation saw the risen Christ apparently with woolly hair and black feet. There are non-biblical evidences that actually allow us to visualize the Son of God from Nazareth.
I ain't coming. I'm gonna kill him. Okay, now I'm mad at y'all for killing my son. I mean, it makes him look illogical in how the story is told. Like, why wouldn't he just come himself? Why would he send his son? Sacrifice his son. He really God. What it don't matter? He come and hey, I'm God. I can come down here. You're my people. I can do. I mean, it just makes the storyline sort of. Don't think. You can, if you can eat it, if you don't think about it. If you think about it, you be like, I really want to serve that kind of God.
That's
You
why
put
I
this
make my
tree in the
mistake. I
garden,
just don't have
and
time.
then the folk eat the tree, and you tell them don't eat it, but you put the
Time for
tree in the
that.
garden, you put the people in the tree, and then you tell them don't eat. That's temptation.
Exactly.
And you set me up, and then I eat it, and you get pissed off at me. Well, what? Dang,
Right.
you know what I'm saying?
Right. And here you're supposed to know everything that's gonna happen in the first place. So why are you tripping? The people are doing what they're doing if you knew. So it's like.
So now I sin, everybody done failed because of me. No, it wasn't me. It was the woman. No, it was me. It was the woman. You know, the man off the hook over there because I was the one who gave him the apple. It's just the story it's a fairy tale, guys. It's like if you don't think about it, you can eat that. But if you give it some thought, you'll be like in the church when they say, "Baby, you don't question the Lord."
Exactly, because even they know it don't make no sense. But that's why I have to be like, okay.
And through your research, did you come across the correlation between the Black Madonna that is revered in Poland and has come out of that? Because I know my one of my best friends is Catholic, and in the wedding they have to go to some corner and pray, and she had her Black Madonna there. So I'm just wondering through your research, had you hooked that? What he looked like in the Bible in the Black Madonna?
I read that in Europe they still worship a Black Christ and a Black Madonna, and they obviously understand what the power that comes from actually the realness of the situation, and like a lot of the text was saying, Jesus didn't become so popular white until America, ruled itself as a country. So it's pretty much an Americanized idea of a white Christ. And so that's why in Europe, where, in areas where even King James actually came from, they still worship Black Christ and Black Madonna. So it's pretty much an American thing.
Russian.
God, not even like Jesus, but the original God apparently is a Black woman. The mother, everybody's mother first came from Africa, and because God is supposed to be the giver of life. So
Right, and that's why.
Life. So how can
None of these
men
stories make
be
any
God?
sense. That's
And
why I just
so
feel like.
since Europe and America and a lot of these countries are based off war, they need a man to look up to as God, because you don't call on a woman for war.
We're
that's
not seen as.
It's not that place for a woman. It's not considered war. So, and especially a lot of the sexist ideas come from, we all know women had they struggle too in America, just the same as, not nearly just the same, but they had they struggle, not just in America, but all over the world as far as being treated equal as men. So if you want to control anybody, put it in a religious text.
And that's exactly, to me, it's just a set of social control. That's.
And that kind of thing where it's like, it's not a real story. You're supposed to take a moral from it, just like a lot of the African proverbs. Like, you're supposed to take a moral from it, but you're not supposed to believe it actually happened. And so since a lot of people take this as law, and that's how mega churches and that kind of thing are able to pretty much pimp society and make tons of money off of the backs of simply religious beliefs. Because people make laws out of the Bible, which the Bible and law don't have anything, never supposed to have anything to do with each other, and that's sacrilegious just in that sense. So, any other questions or comments?
I heard y'all was talking about basically Jesus as a boy and Jesus as a man. We literally forget about the 18 years in the middle because we have no version of that in the Bible. But if you look outside of it, it said that he went to Egypt and he studied. He went to Tibet. Where in Asia where it's like really spiritual and they own and stuff. Like he went over there and he studied. And it's like he couldn't have learned everything he learned in that setting. Like because it was just so. It was literally a box. It was a box. You can't really learn until you get out the box.
So even there's a book that that I read that helped me with my research also called The Original Jesus Christ. And it talks about him going to Asia and actually the Hinduism and what's the word I'm looking for?
Buddhism?
No, the you talked about. It's a name for that.
It's not Buddhist?
Yes, it is Buddhism. I didn't
I'm looking at you.
I thought that was it.
and how they had their roots in the story of Jesus and Christianity, period. So I kind of feel like all the
But
religions.
Buddhism is an African, I mean, the roots were India's spirituality or religion is from Africa as well.
Yeah.
And so, I mean, it's just, this is all circular. It all starts with us and it winds up going around.
And
I mean,
each
the story
story
of
copies each
Jesus
other
is
because there's-
Immaculate Conception. I mean, that's
it
his
predates
story.
him.
That's
It predates.
That's
Yeah, it
That's
predates
Isaac.
him. That's why I'm like, I don't have time for
And it's
this.
also in Asia. I mean, these stories have been around. So, I mean, it's the 10 Commandments, 100 laws in Egyptian laws. 100 laws, right?
I thought it was
It's supposed to be Ethiopia.
Mont 42.
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah, it initially was 100. And so it's my 42. Yes.
Oh,
it's
and
all
Hammurabi's code, all of that. It's like the
It's
same
all our
stuff.
I
Predating
was
him.
so funny because I was listening to Ivan Van Sertima. I know he's an ancestor now, but he was, there's some YouTube videos. I was just listening last night, and he was talking about Christianity, this whole issue of Christianity and the women being the matriarchs. Our systems were matriarchal, that you pass down heritage through the woman. The pharaoh, you could not be a pharaoh. That came through the woman's lineage. So we are a matriarchal system, and we always have been. It's, of course, when we encountered the European.
Oh man, if I could go back then.
And they talk about
We
a
be
lot
living a
too
life.
how in Asia and
Chilling.
India and a lot of our, like when I say our, I mean African, exist in East India and Asia, and that's why they are considered theirs, but they're really not. Because technically, everybody, even some of the Europeans started off black.